Hello and welcome to Crushing Doubts Q&A every Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. I am Dr. Dan Ratner. I'm here to talk with you guys about mind-body symptoms. And of course, what does that mean? That can mean head to toe, anything that happens physically that can't be explained for medical reasons or for a clear blunt force trauma injury. And it's actually the vast majority of human experience with physicality, even little itches and things like that. Your whole body is expressing what's going on in your mind. Now, why am I here to talk to you about it? Well, I had 8 years of back pain. Many of you have joined me here before, and so you know that about my story. But I do think it's important to bring up again that I have had this experience of having symptoms that I could not understand, couldn't get answers about, and was able to find answers about it. And those answers began with the works of Dr. John Sarno. He wrote 4 books. He was an MD at NYU. Brilliant man. I did get to speak with him once very briefly, but he wrote some books that gave me a window into understanding what was going on for me. And that understanding changed my life. So I wanted to bring that to other people. But in addition to that, as I got better, I found I needed certain things that even Dr. Sarno hadn't fully mentioned, or maybe he mentioned in part, or didn't mention at all. And I developed a system that can help people figure out what's going on with these mind-body symptoms, understand what's happening to them, and how they can master it. So this system involves 3 columns: the emotions column, the doubt column, and the power column. And these each describe different parts of experience. You'll be hearing about them in this Q&A tonight as people talk about it. And I'm going to use those columns to help people understand what's happening. In addition, I have lots of resources that can help you out. You can go to my website, www.crushingdoubt.org. On that website, you also can email me, dan@crushingdoubt.org. And whether you email me or go to the website, I have teaching seminars that can introduce you to the basics of this, an intro course about my columns work. I have a very detailed seminar that can get you all of the information you need to make sense of the contradictions that you may hear in the mind-body world even, and get you answers about that. And then I also have membership groups where you can come to see me 3 times a week, once, twice, 3 times a week, to actually talk with me in a similar way to this, but with one added advantage. Well, actually, there's multiple added advantages, but one of the added advantages is there's more give and take. You can say something, I can ask you questions. It can get a little more in depth. Then there's also the group itself. Hearing about other people having those experiences can really free people up and understand more. But that's the basic idea. Let's understand more. So this Q&A is designed for you to ask any questions that you have about it, as long as they'll further your information. And my job is to answer them to the best of my ability and to your satisfaction. If I don't answer it to your satisfaction, keep pushing. Let's ask further questions, okay? Now, I want to say hi to a couple of people. Suzanne Sabes, good to see you here. I saw you recently just followed me on Instagram, so great to connect with you. Daniel Starkey, thank you for being back here again. Good to see you. And Catherine Toomer as well. Sarah Igo Healing Journey has also joined us here. Great to see you. Let me make sure I didn't miss anybody on Instagram. Not so far. Okay. We have a couple people who have joined us on YouTube as well, and we're going to dive in with some of those comments and questions. And first, we have Karen Isaacs. Karen, it's great to see you back here. I know you have a lot going on, and you're going to mention that in these comments. So Karen says, just in case I can't make it tonight, as you know, Dr. Dan, my stepson got a very scary diagnosis last week. One of my biggest issues has been I've lived life bracing for the worst. Karen makes some further comments, but I wanted to comment on this first because I also have lived life bracing for the worst. Part of my background is that my father died of cancer when I was 6 weeks old. And the stories of that, as well as the ramifications of that, have formulated a lot of how I think about life. So bracing for the worst is something I can certainly relate to. Karen, I know you had things very early in your childhood that would leave you bracing. And it's also particularly hard with children of ours, stepchildren or full children, whatever it is. It can be so hard because the way we care about people who are vulnerable in our lives like that is really, it's different. So Karen, we are thinking of you, and I'm going to get more into the comments. I want to say a couple of hellos. Majida, I see you. Judon, thanks for joining us here. And Rita is with us. Hi, Rita. Good to see you. I like the rainbow. She put a rainbow in the post. Okay, more from Karen Isaacs. One reason was because I was with my mom when she woke up paralyzed. I was 19. Oh, Karen, you may need to tell me more about that event because I know some other events you've talked about in the past that that leaves me not sure um, what happened when. So, because one of the things I know about is some tragic things that happened when you were just 2 years old, and if I got that wrong for some reason, please do let me know. But regardless, you're telling us you've carried these things in your experience. Many other reasons too, as you said. Now the worst is happening. So this diagnosis, I'll leave it up to you whether you want to share more about it, but a really, really scary diagnosis. And you're saying the worst is happening. Obviously, it's pretty bad. And let's talk about what's going on now. Karen says, I've been pretty okay. I'm crying when I'm alone. If I'm happy, I'm good with that. I'm noticing my body sensations. Watching my stepson's fear and my husband's fear has me understandably so sad. It's so hard, especially because I'm sure you want to be able to help. But this is one of those things that Sarno talked about, and I certainly talk about in the book I'm writing, which I'm making progress on. I'll update you guys soon. These big ticket items that are so hard, and mortality is one of them, illness is one of them, feeling helpless is one of them, things that happen to our kids and the dangers of the world. You're so loaded in with these that it's very understandable, of course, that you feel so sad and scared yourself and have lots of body sensations probably as well. Then Karen says, we are waiting for test results, so if they come in soon, I may not be able to hop on. Okay. So Karen, we're thinking of you. I'm just scrolling down to see. Okay, you do have actually some updates. Okay, so Karen said, yes, my birth mom committed suicide when I was 2. My mom who adopted me. Okay, so woke up. So Karen, I actually don't think I knew about your adopted mom being paralyzed when you were 19. So this adds to the picture. It's a nice thing about the community, even though we talk about some very hard things, that I get to know people that colors in how I can understand what's going on for them and can help me to help them use the columns in a more effective way. But it also then helps the whole community as they see the examples, because the whole idea is to understand what's going on for you. And what's going on for you is going to relate a lot to what goes on for other people. Sometimes you'll hear some stories and you'll be like, oh, I can't relate to that part, or this part, not so much. But when we hear our commonality and we hear how that commonality fits into the columns, it can be very helpful. So Judon said, hi, it's late in England, but I've stayed awake for this. Well, thank you for staying awake for this, Judon. Hopefully you are a bit of a night owl, so it's not too much of a stretch. But either way, I'd love to make it worth your while, especially if you have questions or you want to get more information about this. I'm going to talk your ear off. So I am here, and please do let me know if you have anything specific in mind. Debbie Gladstone, good to see you here as well. All right. And I'm thinking of you, Debbie. Okay. So then Karen also had more follow-up. We don't know yet, but brain surgeries. Doctor think it's a melanoma that went to the brain. He is 36, has a baby and a wife. Oh my God, Karen. I'm so sorry. And, there's so many stories that are so hard. What I'm, of course, hoping is that they're going to find a way through this. And, but I understand this has got to be utterly terrifying. And in this situation, I, of all people, and you, of all people, will understand the vulnerability of that baby, of that wife, of him. And I'm, of course, of you and your husband. This has got to hit your family very hard. You're going to have probably some emotions column symptoms, but it also may be that you're right on the emotion of it. And as a result, you may not have those kind of symptoms. It may just be bringing up a lot of thoughts that you're running through and just trying to sort that through. And you may be processing all kinds of things or making power column decisions about what to do. So I'm interested to hear more about whatever you're going through. And I'm so sorry. I hate that this kind of stuff is out there at all. And one of the things that I'm hopeful for is that people getting more and more mind-body awareness will help doctors catch things earlier and understand things more, and patients have more things that they can do about it. So I am really hoping for the best for you, Karen. Thank you for sharing. It's an honor that you're here with us. Okay. Suzanne Sabe says, how do I bring down the fear and doubt that's based so much on real experience and feels naive not to trust? Then she has a follow-up. I'm 20, experienced a lot of trauma, and can't believe that there's no reason to be afraid because my past experiences have proven me otherwise. Okay, so first of all, that makes perfect sense. I've had a lot of trauma in my life, and of course, like Karen's saying, bracing for the worst, and you're saying, Suzanne, we're going to brace for things, especially when we've had a traumatic experience. But now I'm going to back up to your question. You said, how do I bring down the fear and doubt that's based so much on real experience and feels naive not to trust? So, Suzanne, the thing that I would want to tease out here, and of course, I'm just getting to know you, so I want to know more about whatever's going on, and anything you can share to shed some light would be great. But hopefully it'll be helpful to hear that I don't expect you to just have faith. My way of thinking about it is I want to change how you're thinking about things from things that you can trust, from science, from logic. A lot of times when people are talking to me, they don't realize that I'm going to give them a different perspective than they expect. I'm not just going to say, oh, just don't be afraid, because that doesn't work. Many times people say, I've been saying to myself, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe, but it doesn't work. And I say to them, do you believe you're safe? And they usually will say no. If you don't believe it, it doesn't do anything for you. This is about real belief. So what I would recommend, Suzanne, is we have a bit of a discussion about, well, what are you afraid of? What are your doubts? What are those based on? And we get into the details. By the way, this is part of the reason that the groups are so effective. We can have so much give and take in a short amount of time. And I can help draw that out, in terms of articulating the doubt and understanding what the fear is and understanding what would you need to know to feel better. So we're essentially, Suzanne, if hopefully you're willing to give that a chance, more today, maybe more next week, or utilizing some of my services, we can have a conversation about these things so that I can actually convince you and you can actually believe this. I don't expect you to just believe you're going to be fine, especially when you have a huge amount of experience of not being fine. And that's what trauma is. So let me know if that helps, Suzanne, and we can go from there. Okay, Justine here from Australia. Thank you for joining me here. So yeah, Suzanne, please do let me know what you think so far, and we'll continue this discussion. But I definitely don't expect you to just feel safe or expect to be fine when you have a lot of experience otherwise. I will do some other things that can help more than that. Okay, Beth Fowler says, no improvement yet. Beth's been having a lot of doubts and coming to the Q&As recently, and we're working on it. She says, no improvement yet. She capitalizes the word yet. I love that because I know what that means is she still has hope that there's going to be. I wake up happy, optimistic. Good. By mid-afternoon, after hurting all day, I'm self-pitying, sad. Okay, so as the day progresses, that hope can maybe drain away a little bit. I do expect a change soon, a tipping point where the brain will say, okay, no more symptoms. So I want to encourage not only Beth about this, but everybody. Beth is working on a doubt column issue. She has understandable doubt that it won't get better because it hasn't gotten better. But one rule of thumb that I give to people is that doubt can only last so long. It doesn't actually have that great stamina. It's very convincing, but its stamina isn't that good. So your job is to keep a wall up against doubt and to keep challenging it. Because what ends up happening is doubt gets tired actually pretty fast when you do that. And when I say pretty fast, I don't want to be misleading or have anyone feel demoralized if it doesn't go particularly fast. When I say pretty fast, I mean in the grand scheme of things. It can take a little while, but keep it up. Your job is to keep it up against doubt and make sure that it doesn't get to play a huge role in your thinking. Because if doubt is playing a huge role in your thinking, or worry, which is a form of doubt, you race and race and race and it wins and then it gets to expand. When you keep a wall up against doubt, it can't expand and it even starts to give up some territory. It also starts to show cracks in its arguments. One analogy that I use for doubt is it's like a pathological liar. So what happens with a liar? The longer they talk, the more they start to sound suspicious. It's like if you put somebody on the stand in a case, the longer they're out there, if they're lying, the worse it gets for them. The more chances there are that something's not going to add up. So Beth, we got to keep hammering doubt. And there is going to be a tipping point. And the brain it's interesting because will the brain say, okay, no more symptoms? I think what's really going to happen is we'll remove the factor of doubt, and that will uncover how to see the other symptoms, whether through emotions or power column, or even that doubt spiked at a given moment. The main thing is I want to start having you see the link between symptoms and thoughts and feelings. And you can't see that link if it's always the same. Doubt column symptoms are what we're looking at when they're kind of always the same. So once we get a little break in that, then we're going to start to see a lot of stuff. And that's the tipping point you're talking about. It's going to start to change. I don't think it's necessarily going to be that you instantly will not have those symptoms, but you're going to start to see changes. You're going to start to see shifts. There was somebody on the YouTube channel who commented on one of the videos. And by the way, I haven't been putting out new videos recently because I'm trying to finish the book. I will be getting back to putting out videos though. Lots of stuff coming. But he made a comment and he said, I did finally start to get shifts in symptoms, but then I started to feel that these symptoms are new and I can't battle them. And he got demoralized again. So doubt won some battles, but I backed up with him and I said, hey, but do you see? By fighting back doubt, shifts started to happen. Beth, that is what's going to happen for you. And soon after that, yes, there's going to be no more symptoms. It is coming. It's inevitable when the symptoms can be understood. And that's what I really do is I identify why are the symptoms here. And by identifying the function, I take away the function and then the symptom goes. Ask Nurse Alice is here with us. Nurse Alice, it is good to have you here. I seem to remember that we were on a show together a long time ago. So thank you for joining me here. I was on a show called The Raw Word and Nurse Alice came on and we were, I believe I have that right, but let me know. And it was great to connect with you and good to see you here. Haley Parr, thanks for joining us here as well. Okay, Judon said, it's fear with me, Dan, after surgery done by a brain surgeon. All went well, but it's led to any kind of body pain to me thinking that there is something bad happening in my body. Okay, so one thing I want to say here, and this is for Jew, but it's for everybody. It doesn't matter what I think, per se. I can give you good thoughts. I can give you things to consider, but ultimately it depends on what you think. So I'm going to say some things, but Jew, I want you to push back and tell me what you think or give me more information if I need it. But what I would do, certainly if we were in group, there would be more give and take here, but I'm going to give it for you in this way anyway. What I would be asking here is, well, how long after the surgery did you start to have these symptoms? Because it's a different picture if, let's say, you had the surgery, it went well, everything was fine for 3 months, and then suddenly symptoms started popping up. And it would be another, and I'm not saying this means there would be something wrong, because I don't think there is anything wrong. But if, other than mind-body stuff, but if you had the surgery and you then had symptoms since the surgery, even in a mind-body sort of way, it's just a different picture because the way we would combat the doubt about it would be different. If it's like you didn't have any symptoms for 3 months, then I could actually pretty easily say to you, well, this is one of those things where doubt doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's not logically making sense because you had a procedure. And if there was a problem with that procedure, it should have started right away. And so if that's the case, we've got a major weapon against doubt as far as I'm concerned. We need to hear from you, though, about it. Now, if it started right afterwards, however, that's not necessarily bad news either because it's scary to get a surgery. It can naturally bring up doubts. And in fact, it's one thing that I tell people to do when they go into a procedure or they, are maybe going to do an exercise and they're not sure about it or facing a trigger, which is an environmental experience that can lead to a belief that you're hurt or that you could get hurt. I tell people to put on their doubt armor. And that is a kind of thing that can prep you for things so that, let's say you do come out of a surgery and you start to have symptoms, you could at least call it into question and say, is it possible this is just mind body? Because the vast likelihood is that it is. The vast majority of all physical experience is mind body. So if you had to assume anything, I'd want you to assume that. So let me get a little more information now. Jew says, my sister sadly passed away from a brain tumor, I think. I think this is the fear I have. So that makes a whole lot of sense. I'm sorry to hear it, Jew. That's awful news. But if you think about it, that makes it so likely that you would have that worry. So the way that we would work with this, and this is for Jew, but for everybody else, is that we would start to articulate what specifically are you thinking. And you may not even know. One of my jobs would be to pull that out of you and get you to put it into words and realize, oh, you know what? I'm saying that. Now she's adding something. My symptoms happened about 3 months after my surgery. I definitely think that's funny that I actually got the timing right. It's the fear due to my sister's passing away when I was young. That's 100% right. And I do want to say to you, and I'll say it pretty definitively, but it doesn't matter what I think. It matters whether this sinks in for you. If there were complications of any kind that would lead to symptoms from that surgery, it would have happened when you woke up from the surgery. So these symptoms are about that. Now, I can say that definitively, but it only helps you if it feels right to you. And if it doesn't yet, I want you to push back and say, okay, but what about this? Whatever's there for you, that's what's going on in your mind. Everybody's got mind body symptoms that relate to what's going on for them in their minds. And we've got to keep on that. So, Jude, do let me know. But this 100% sounds like mind body stuff. We've got all the reason to believe why it would be there. Makes perfect sense. We just have to get you confident about it. Okay, Suzanne says, thanks so much. I'll get back to you. But Suzanne, do let me know what you need in that, okay? Now, Jude Dawn says, she passed in the same hospital I had my surgery. That's so ripe for you to have symptoms there. It's all making sense to me, but the question is, does it make sense to you? I mean, this is an open shut case as far as I'm concerned. I mean, the timing, the theme involved, the intensity of the feeling, these are all the things that would add up to a mind body symptom. You got the recipe for it. I would say unfortunately, but actually in some ways it's fortunate because now that we pretty much know it's mind body, or at least I do, I can encourage you how to deal with it. Okay, thanks for sharing. Jane Smith says, sorry to hear you are having to go through this. Karen Isaacs sending love and comfort your way. Thanks, Jane. Jane says, hi, Dr. Dan. I missed you last week. So yeah, I was away last week and I missed you guys. Hope you enjoyed spring break. Thanks for being here for us again and for spotlighting considering crushing doubt, a partnership. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think that's a really important idea. And it's an idea that I hit upon as I thought about, well, what's really happening here? It's not something that you do all on your own, but it's also not something that I do all on my own. It is a partnership. And what happens is I put up a wall against doubt and I'm a weapon against it. And we wade into it together. And we talk about these different issues until you feel more comfortable, until you do make progress, until, like we were talking with Beth, until there is that breakthrough and tipping point. And what I find is that because I am so effective against doubt, I bring down doubt, and eventually you start to see the pairing of an emotional experience with the symptom, or with a kind of power experience, which is about whether you feel good in your relationship with you or others or your symptoms. And we just start to see it more clearly. And when you see it more clearly, your doubt comes down even further. And you start to feel more and more optimistic. This is going to go away. And that's what I'm here for. So yes, it's a partnership. I will hammer away at doubt. I'll keep giving you information. And your guys' job is really just to keep asking the questions that could get you answers. So it's a true Q&A. You've got to ask the questions and I got to give the answers, but it's a partnership. Thanks for highlighting that, Jane, and good to see you. And thanks for your well wishes. Okay, Juliet says, hi, good to see you here, Juliet. Let us know if you have any questions. I'm just going to scroll down and see if you did ask anything. Okay, not yet, but if you do have something, do let me know. Tracy, Mom, good to see you here. And Judon says, thanks, Dan. Thank you, Ju. I appreciate it. Okay. Karen Isaac says, thanks, Jane, for that, those well wishes. And we really are thinking of you, Karen. I'm so sorry it's such a hard time. Okay, Chrissy Lynn Eden says, hi, Dan. I hope you're well. So I've been making a lot of improvement with my body. Fantastic. I have much less pain. But no matter what I do, I don't know if that was my emphasis. So maybe she doesn't feel she has much less pain, but she could say I have much less pain in a less emphasized way. But no matter what I do, my mid to lower back muscles, I guess they're still hurting or tight. Sorry, there was a period in there. No matter what I do, my mid to lower back muscles still feel like they're collapsing, causing a lot of difficulty standing and walking. What is going on? Okay. So first of all, The fact that you're making improvements this is where I love this work because the proof's in the pudding. So many people do get progress with this. We start looking at doubt and they start making progress. What this says to me, Chrissy, is victory is inevitable. We've already won a lot of battles. Doubt is in a lot of trouble. It's going to hang on where it can. So you said, what is going on? I think doubt is hanging on where it can. It's hanging on maybe in a spot that feels more vulnerable or in a symptom that feels more concerning or confusing. That's where it's going to hang out. It's going to try to hang on wherever it can. So that's what's happening. It is not, I mean, if you think about it, it would be astronomically unlikely that you would have mind-body issues that we've been able to make major improvements on, but also have a really weird physical thing. The chances of that being together are incredibly slim unless there was a clear delineated injury from the outside, which there wasn't. So what I would say is this is just doubt repackaging itself. It's going to try to fool you again. And I encourage you, keep hammering away at it. We are making progress. Doubt is in trouble. It's on the run. It's trying to get a victory to get you stuck. Don't let it. Never let doubt get any victories. Crush it. Okay, we'll keep talking about it. Chrissy then says, I have had some things happen in my life making me very happy, which may be responsible for these changes, but still I can't walk or stand right ever. Okay, Chrissy, you're still making fantastic progress. When we first met, you had a lot of doubts. You did not think you were going to get better. You weren't even sure this was mind-body stuff. You hadn't had any of these improvements. You didn't have anything really that was going on that was making you happy at the time either. And I'm not taking credit for that, but I'm just saying, look, there's a lot of stuff that's happening that's good here. And so doubt is trying to get you again by making an argument. Well, okay, you're happy, but doubt's favorite word is but. It's got a but for everything. Oh, but this, but that, but this, but that. And this is part of the reason why doubt is so important. It has endless resources because it can always bring up another doubt. There's always another doubt to bring up. Your job is not to buy any of it. Your job is to think of doubt as a compulsive liar that you don't need to listen to at all. And both the things about, the mid to lower back muscles collapsing, that idea, or the fact that you can't walk or stand right. I'm not saying these symptoms aren't actually there right now. It's just that they're temporary. They're going to go away too because they're also mind-body. Let's keep working at it. Let me just see if she said anything else down the line. Okay. Oh, wait, hold on. Here she said, I would have thought my symptoms should have disappeared totally after these amazing things that have happened over the past few weeks. Why are these main symptoms still not gone, even with all this happiness and not focusing on them? It's because doubt isn't completely gone. That's why. Now, I just do want to say, look, the correlation between your doubt and the symptoms is like 100%. We brought your doubt down and your symptoms came down. Why is it not gone? Because the doubt's not totally gone. And it's hard to get doubt to go totally away, but you can do it. You have to keep hammering away at it. I'll keep working on it with you. We're making all this progress. There's absolutely no reason to believe that we can't make more. But doubt is trying to get you hung up on this idea of, oh, well, if it really was that, it should have just disappeared. It's using its own methods against you. It's saying to you, well, I should be gone, shouldn't I? But it isn't. It knows that. Your doubt is pretty smart. It's a psychological defense. It's trying to convince you that you're not going to be able to get rid of it all. We are making huge progress. Keep at it, and this is all going to go away. Sometimes it's harder also with those first symptoms or the main symptoms to believe that they will also go away. There's an added level of doubt, and that's why it can be that way. All right, let's see. Just want to make sure I'm not missing anybody because that would be one of the last things I'd want to do here. This is a community that values everybody here. So if I do inadvertently miss somebody, please chime in and just say, hey, I think you missed my question, and I'll come back to you. Okay, Lynn Slovensky says, hi, how do you know when doubt is down enough to work on the power column and write the core narrative? It's a great question, Lynn. Typically, it's most easily done in groups because I can ask a couple of questions and assess that. But what I guess I would say is, doubt. The doubt column is for supposedly chronic symptoms. I say supposedly because I don't really believe in the word chronic. Chronic is just describing it's unbroken in time. I call it consistently acute. It means it is always there, but because it's acute, it can always leave at any given moment. So if that's the case in the doubt column, if that's what the doubt column is for, then I would say, well, are your symptoms starting to move? If your symptoms are starting to move at all and you are feeling confident, then you can roam anywhere you want in the columns. But if you are still filled with a lot of doubt or the symptoms aren't budging, then I want to keep hammering away at doubt. It's always doubt first. But once you get past that first point, even if you're just feeling quite optimistic and you want to go in these other directions, what you're going to find is the other columns can sometimes help in reducing doubt even more because things make more sense. That's really what reducing doubt is all about. It's supposed to make sense. Knowing you as I do think we've actually reduced doubt enough for you to go ahead and do that. But you're the one who's going to have to gauge that. You might even find that you start doing it and doubt starts chiming in and goes up and you get worried. Then we can just back up and start doing the doubt column work again. Each column is available to you at any given moment. So as long as you know what they are and how to use them, you get to use all three as much as you want in combination with each other, sometimes at the same time. But Lynn, knowing you as I do, if you feel the doubt is significantly down, you can do any work in the columns you want. Let me know if that makes sense to you. Okay, Dorisa says, hi, Dan and everyone. Good to see you, Dorisa. I think you had a follow-up. Yes. I heard instead of mind-body syndrome, mind-body approach emphasized for what people are going through. So I like that. And what I'll say about it, Dorisa, is that when I hear the word syndrome or disorder, even worse, I don't like those words so much because they sound harder to overcome. They feed doubt. So I don't use any of those terms in terms of how I talk about it. Even the book that I'm writing, I just refer to them as mind-body issues. And I think of that as kind of more the human condition. I'm not denigrating anybody who says a syndrome or disorder, but I'm just saying I always want to look out for terms that lead to doubt. And I think the idea of a mind-body approach simply makes us think about, well, how does the human mind work and how does the human body work? As opposed to, oh no, I've got something wrong with me going on, or I'm gonna have to figure out how to work with this complicated thing. It's the human condition. Everybody has mind-body issues. Every single person you've ever met. In fact, even animals that have any kind of consciousness, they have mind-body issues. Dogs do. Any really intelligent animal that has some consciousness is going to have mind-body issues. You see animals with trauma, horses, dolphins, dogs, cats, and they can manifest some of these things because of that. So yeah, I think the idea of a mind-body approach is a good way of thinking about things. Okay, Suzanne Sabe says, I feel like the doubt can't be brought down by, quote, finding my answers in a sense where gathering facts could help because there just are more studies that show that life does get better for everyone. I guess that my biggest fear that creates my symptoms and feels like it's what doesn't let me get better because it didn't get better so many times before. So, Suzanne, in my work, I work in multiple ways, but sometimes it's about bringing science and logic that applies to everybody. But sometimes, yeah, I see you said there just are no studies in what I meant. Sorry. No, I think I had you there, but do let me know if I'm missing the boat. Part of the work of crushing doubt is to help you get answers about you in your own life, about how you think about you. So it's not just about studies. I will bring a lot of science and logic when it's needed, but a lot of that logic gets applied to you where, you might be saying to yourself, well, I think this is going to happen. I'll give you an example. Let's say you've been in some traumatic relationships and with some difficult people. And then you're saying, I'm worried it's going to happen in my current relationship. And I ask you about your current relationship. And it turns out that this person's actually quite different, that you found this person after doing a lot of insight work, that you're a different person than you were. Now we've got different data points that would suggest this is not likely to go like those other things. And that's logic applied to your specific life. Of course, I'm pulling that out of thin air, but that's the kind of idea that we can start to talk about. Ultimately, it really helps to be able to talk to you directly. The seminars give you a lot of information, and that information is really important and useful, and it gives us a common framework to work with. But then when you come to the groups, or if you come here, or if contact me by email, which is dan@crushingdoubt.org, or you find me on the website, www.crushingdoubt.org. There's all these different ways to start exploring not only the science and logic in the broad sense of the word, but also within you. So you can get answers about you. And I think that's incredibly important. It's one of the things that I struggle with in feeling that Dr. Sarno's books, as great as they are, they're books. There isn't a give and take. And so I needed answers about me. And I went to see Eric Sherman, a therapist who trained under Sarno and Dr. Arlene Feinblatt, his chief psychology partner. And I got to ask questions that applied to me. And so don't hesitate to ask questions that apply to you. You need the answers you need, whatever they are. Okay, Melissa Voinovich, good to see you here. Thanks for joining me on Instagram. Okay, Suzanne, do let me know what you think about what I said there, okay? But there are answers to the personal. All right. Again, just making sure I'm not missing anybody. Okay, Stuck Between Stations. Cool. I like that name. I think it's time to move you on to your next station if you're ready to move. Okay, Dan, not sure if you read my email or not, but regarding toxic relationships, really been thinking about the ending of that certain one the last day or two, and symptoms have jumped around throughout the day. Someone, really the only constant / friend in my life for the last decade plus. I know I need to step away from her. But obviously that is really difficult. So a majority of the emotions column has been in play the last few days, which makes a lot of sense. When you're going through something big, the symptoms are going to be up. Shifting symptoms, fair amount of pain, bad sleep, etc. Well, I'm sorry about that. Not sure if this is purely a power column issue, though it seems as though all the columns are in play. Yep, Scott, I thought it was you. And then Scott says, sorry, power column as in action step. Okay, so yeah, listen, there's a lot of thinking about, well, what do I do here? And to me, this is one of the reasons I created the columns, really for myself first, but then for everybody else, is it gives me an organized way to sift through what's what. And all columns can be in play at a given moment. So I want you to think about it this way, Scott. The doubt column could be in play if doubt has gone up. If you have, there are four main forms of doubt. There's fear, there's confusion, there's lack of certainty, and then there's just basic questions. If you've got any of that, then you've got some doubt column work to do. And of course, most of us have questions at certain points. So doubt is almost always in play in some way. But if you've got symptoms that are bouncing all over the place and they're related to emotional life, I would look in that emotions column, because you may be able to resolve some of those symptoms right then and there if you can get a pinpointed understanding of them. One of the things I say in the emotions column is that we've got to get specific. In the emotions column, I help people organize these around 6 to 12 themes, is usually a good number, that are the basic things that are upsetting in your life or that tend to set off things. And it gives you a ballpark of where to look. And then you can get more specific from there. So you might look at, was I not feeling valid? Or was I not feeling safe? Or did I feel disrespected? Or did I feel that I was misunderstood? Whatever themes tend to line up for you. And then you look at the specifics. Well, how specifically? Who was it? What went on? And so, Scott, I'd be looking for that. However, I do think there's some power column work going on here, because you're making a power column move. This is a big time relationship in your life, and you haven't been able to move past it in the past. Stuck between stations. There's that name. And I think that what I would normally do, let's say we were meeting in group and talking about this, is I'd want to give you ways of thinking to support your power column efforts. The power column is different than the emotions column. It's different. Each column is different, but the emotions column is designed to get rid of acute symptoms fast through awareness. The power column is an emotionally based column, but it is not designed to get rid of symptoms fast. It's designed to help you understand yourself in a more broad, full way, to give you confidence that you're working through something big. And I think that's the work here. So, Scott, one of my guesses, this is a guess, because I don't know enough about it. if we're talking in group or something, we could find out. But my guess is that there's some big theme that fits with a more broad standpoint, like, can you stand on your own? Or what would it mean to you to not have this connection? Like, does it mean that, oh, I've never really had a connection fully? Or does that mean I'm not lovable? There's some big meaning that is looming out there that's making this particularly tough. And I'd want you to think about, what is that? And I would want to support you in the efforts to go ahead and find ways to make that move anyway. Because a lot of times you're going to need to make some difficult changes. I've done it myself. They're some of the hardest things I ever did. And yet they're some of the most rewarding things I've ever done. So Scott, let's keep talking about it. But you're saying, you need to step away from her. Well, then I would want to give you support around the idea that there's going to be somebody else who maybe can be like her in the good ways, but not in the hard ways. And that you also can make gains in standing on your own, and that you can do it, and all kinds of things like that. And I'm not just going to say those things in a kind of pat sort of way. I'd know the specifics if we were talking about it, and I could tell you why I have confidence. But I would need to give you confidence. Doesn't matter what I think. It matters what you think. So let's keep talking about it, Scott. Thank you for sharing. Okay, then Lynn Slavinsky says, want to thank you again for linking my onsets to my major theme alone. Helped bring down doubt, that stress from husband's illness brought it on, and anger about that. Okay, so getting that clarity in the emotions column is, it can be very important, and it can be incredibly destructive to doubt and constructive to you. So thank you for highlighting that, Lynn. I'm so glad we did that, and that you're making progress. It's one of the ways we brought down doubt. It's also one of the ways that we helped you feel that the emotions column is this kind of tangible, usable thing. And I think that's part of the reason you're feeling, maybe I can move over to the power column and start thinking about this core narrative. I think in some ways you asked me that question because you are ready. It probably wouldn't have even occurred to you to ask that question if you were still really grappling with these other columns. Okay. All right. Daniel Starkey. Just want to make sure I didn't miss anybody. Okay. If I'm still living in fear in some areas of my life, like wanting love but afraid of rejection and getting hurt, or fear of expressing my true self, is that going to keep my pain going? Because of overall nervous system feeling, quote unquote, danger or doubts? Great question. So here's what I would say, Daniel. I'm gonna give you an answer, but we may need to do follow up on it. The short answer is no. There is not inherent that having any sense of danger or doubts leads to symptoms. Typically speaking, especially in the emotions and doubt column, lack of awareness is what really kills you. And in the emotions column, more than anything. In the doubt column, though, there's a fair amount of lack of awareness that people can have. And what I mean by that is they don't have it pinpointed. What is the specific doubt? So as an example, you've got it generally, maybe this, I'm afraid of rejection or getting hurt, or, not getting the love I want. But I would want to know specifically, why don't you think you're going to get that? What do you think is going to hold you back? Whatever that belief system could be. It could be people in the world are shitty, or it could be, I'm not saying that's true, but that could be the thought. Or it could be, I'm not really lovable in that way, or this part of me is never going to be something I can share with somebody. So getting specific about it is part of how we would resolve it. So I don't think anyone's ever really doomed to their doubts for multiple reasons. One of them being that we can actually observe, articulate, and counter them. So doing the doubt column work. But I also will say this, it's perfectly possible to have a bunch of doubts and not have symptoms. Many people are like that. They just aren't, they don't express themselves so much in the mind-body way, but they still have doubts. So it is perfectly possible to have doubts that don't lead to symptoms. It's also very, very plausible to have doubts that do lead to symptoms. And what I want to encourage you is just keep working on bringing down doubt. But this question itself is a doubt. It's, I may not be able to get past this because I'm never going to get past all of my doubt. And I want to resolve that. You don't need to get past all your doubts. You need to be working against doubt. And that's going to bring it down. Then Daniel says, I know a big theme for me is childhood abandonment. It's been a massive part of my life and upbringing and shaping me. So first of all, my heart goes out to you. It's a horrible thing. I experienced it in certain regards for sure. And I can relate. And what I want to encourage you is it doesn't matter what theme you have. There is no theme that's going to stop you from getting better. The columns are about the fact that once you understand what the symptom is there for, you win and the symptom goes. In the emotions column, it's about getting awareness and then that distraction function of the symptom distracting from the emotional experience you don't want to know about goes. In the doubt column, it's about getting all your questions answered, all your doubts down so that you're not worried or thinking you're not going to get better and the belief system changes and therefore the physiology changes. And in the power column, it is about changing your mindset of how you think about you, what it's been like for you and what it means and what you think is possible there and making some power column adjustments. And what that does is in the power column is the function of the symptoms in the power column is to receive the communication of the symptom. Well, if you receive it, the function is achieved. So you can get rid of every symptom. There's no symptom that is a mind-body symptom, which is the vast majority of all symptoms, that can't be gotten rid of. And you're going to be fine, no matter what the theme and no matter what the doubt, and no matter whether you have doubt, you can still get better. Daniel, let me know if that makes sense to you and does the trick in answering what you need. Okay. Tula, good to see you here. Damn, what messages of safety can I tell myself when my nervous system gets very loud with non-comforting noise in my head and all the rest? I know it's because I'm doing more. Oh, she meant to say Dan. I didn't catch it in time. Sorry, Tula. Okay, so Dan, what messages of safety can I tell myself when my nervous system gets very loud? Well, first of all, whatever message of safety we're going to choose, it needs to be believable. If you don't believe it, not going to help you much. So what I would want to do is to find out more about, well, what is the lack of safety? Let's identify it. The message of safety is going to come from identifying the nature of the lack of safety. So let's say, for instance, the lack of safety feels like I'm pulling this out of thin air, but it's I'm going to be alone. You could start to look at that and be like, well, wait a minute, is that actually true? Sometimes I do that and I'll have that thought myself and I'll think, wait, but actually I have, my best friend and I've got my wife and kids and I've got, best friend from another time in my life. I have other people. Even this community sometimes feels like a way to feel like, no, I'm not alone. So the message of safety is always going to depend on the worry. It's always going to depend on what the danger feels like it is. So your nervous system doesn't just, I want to encourage you about this, and hopefully this will be helpful, Tula. Your nervous system doesn't just get loud randomly. It doesn't just crank up the volume. It's always about something specific. So I want you to be looking at that. I want you to look at the specifics. And once we get that, I'll be able to tell you what message of safety you can get. If you try to give a message of safety too generally, it won't work. I'm not saying that critically. I'm saying it supportively. Let's get specific and we'll get you what that message of safety can be. Okay? We're going to need to wrap up shortly, but Tula, you know where to find me if you want to get more information before next Q&A, or bring it to the next Q&A, whatever you want, or you can even send a preloaded question. If you're not going to be here for a Q&A and you want to get a question in, you can send it to me by email, dan@crushingdoubt.org. And if there's time, I bring it in, and I will certainly try to, especially if it's a priority. Just let me know. Okay. Then Daniel Starkey says, I feel like I cling to symptoms and pain as a reason that things won't work out. And it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy by self-sabotaging myself. Yeah, doubt it's like trying a last-ditch effort almost. I know you well enough to know at this point that you've made some progress against doubt, but it's trying to say like, but you still have the symptoms, still have the symptoms, still have the symptoms. It's its last-ditch effort. And what I want you to focus on is, if you still have symptoms, then just try to understand them. Use the columns to understand these symptoms. They're telling us something. There's more to understand there. And each column has things to understand, and let's work at it, and we can get there. I hope that's helpful, Daniel, but that's the way I would think about it. Okay, I'm going to answer this one last question or two. This is from Scott. The moniker of Stuck Between Stations is a little nod to the Hold study, and we talked about that last time. But yes, a double meaning for a large part of my life, and many people can relate to this. But yes, thank you, Dan. You are right. I'm sure there is the self-criticism emotions column theme as well as why didn't I end this sooner? Oh boy, yeah. So anything that is high stakes, anything that makes you feel like, well, if I don't have a good answer or it leaves me feeling bad about me, if it's high stakes, it's one of the ways that an emotions column symptom can come up. Emotions column themes are they're high stakes. They are broad in nature. They're connected to something broad, but they're also they're specific when they get enacted. So when you're looking for the themes, it's supposed to be broad and high stakes, connected to something big. But when you're looking for the specifics, or the details of how to get rid of the symptom, you got to get very specific within that theme. So, let's look at that self-critical theme. Your job, by the way, and this is actually a power column solution, an action step in the power column, is you're supposed to be fiercely in your own corners. There's no room for self-criticism in the power column. It's natural. I'm not saying that critically, by the way, and I don't want you to be critical about it, obviously. But I think that in the power column, you've got to get to a place where you're going to recognize through understanding that core narrative and the nature of your core suffering self and what you've been through, that you don't deserve that self-criticism. So I'll give you an example. Why didn't you end this sooner? I don't have the specific answers in all likelihood, but I'm going to try this out anyway, Scott. The chances are you didn't end this sooner because you weren't equipped to do that with your experience. In fact, you probably were given the message, don't end these things. This is the best you can get. Hold on to it. Hold steady. So don't blame yourself for it. In the power column, you have been living the life you were told to live. But in the power column, we learn to live the life that we want to live, not how we were told to live. And that can be very different. Okay, Jane Smith says, thanks, Dr. Dan. Good to see you and hear your voice today. Glad you're back. It is good to be back with you, Jane, and thank you for the appreciation. It really does help. I want to do a lot of good work for you, and it's I'm certainly not demanding the appreciation, but it's nice when I get it, especially if it's genuine, because then I know I really am helping. So guys, we'll keep it up. You can come here every Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. It's a Q&A for everybody. And the job is for you to ask questions and me to give you answers. If you want to get to work on things in more detail on these columns, as I mentioned, you can get these on the website, www.crushingdoubt.org. But I have these two different seminars. One's just an introductory course. It's only 50 minutes long, and it tells what are these columns about. It's very cost effective. You can just check it out and see what you think. You can ask me questions, send me emails at dan@crushingdoubt.org. Try to keep them short because I can get back to you faster. But there is a longer seminar that tells you all the things you need to know about the entire mind-body field and how to think about it. And then, of course, the membership groups. So if you want to come talk to me in more detail and get further, let's do it. Okay. Scott says, thank you, Dan. I will email you further on that and try to work out something with groups. I hope so, Scott. Would love to work with you on that. And I know you did email me before, so I will look to get back to you on that as well. Guys, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure being here with you, and I look forward to seeing you all the same time next week. And we'll keep it up. There are answers to why you have your mind-body symptoms, and those answers can lead to relief. All right. Take care.